So, what did Jesus mean by it is finished? What is it that was finished? Well, here's the answer right here in Romans 10:4. For Christ is the finishing, it is finished, the finishing of the law for righteousness to every faithing one. Where if we back up to verse 3, we read, For they, Israel, as unknowing ones in regards to the righteousness of God and seeking to establish their own righteousness, self-righteousness. They were not subordinated to the righteousness of God through faith because the law was not out of faith. Where if we back up to chapter 9, verse 30, we read, Hence, what shall we talk? Surely that the nations who did not pursue righteousness down took righteousness, but the righteousness out of faithing, in contrast to but Israel pursuing a law of righteousness, which this is finished now. This is what's finished, a law of righteousness, self-righteousness, seeking to establish their own righteousness. They did not come prior into this law, the law of faith. Wherefore, since it did not happen out of faith, but out of the works of the law, not the works of faith, the works of the law. So what was finished is a law of righteousness. Again, chapter 10, verse 3. For Christ is the finishing of the law for righteousness, which is self-righteousness. The same context of Philippians 3:9. To be found in him, not having my righteousness, self-righteousness, that out of law, but that through the faithing of Christ, the righteousness out of God on account of faithing. Now, righteousness is a gift. Romans chapter 5, verse 17. Those taking the abundance of the grace and of the gift of righteousness will reign in life through the one Jesus Christ. But we can't confuse righteousness with faith because faith is not a gift. Faith is a wrestle. Wrestle, the ideal wrestle of the faithing. If faith was a gift that you had to wrestle with, nobody would take it. Again, 2 Timothy 4:7, the ideal wrestle I have wrestled, the course I have finished. So wrestling has to do with a course, athleting in the faith. The faith I have guarded. Faith is something that we guard. Even Jude confirms that you wrestle on in the faithing, that you guard the faith. Athleting together in the faith for a reward. We're athleting for a reward. Here in Hebrews 11, the so-called Hall of the Faithing Ones, we could say, we read that it is binding for him who is coming to God to faith, where here the word faith is a verb. Pisteuo. Faith that he is and that he will become a giver of reward. So again, a reward is not a gift. It is something that we are wrestling and athleting towards. So part of the wrestling and athleting in the faith is the land work. Paul writes, but the planting one and the watering one are one. Watering is the talk of God. Sowing the seed is the word of God. But each will take his own reward. Reward is not a gift. According to his own tiring, wrestling the faith, tiring. Concerning the work of the faithing and the tiring of love. Work of faithing. So the work of the faithing that has a reward is planting and watering and sowing. It's the land work. will take his own reward. Verse 13, the work of the faith of each will become revealed, for the day will make it obvious, because it is then unveiled in the fire, and the work of each, what kind it is, the fire will examine it. And if anyone's work will abide, for those who are abiding in wrestling, in tiring, and athleting in the faith, he will built on, he will take reward. If anyone's work will be down, burned, or the lack thereof, parable of the talents, the one who was given 1 mina and did nothing with it, he will lose the reward, but he will be saved, but so as through fire. So then you have to ask yourself, what is the context of the reward? Well, I already talked about this. Watch my video 148. So understand, righteousness is a gift, but faith is work. It's still work. It's not the work of the law, which could not accomplish the worshiper. It's the ability of God indwelling in us. So Christ is the finishing of the law of the flesh, for righteousness to every faithing one. But don't misconstrue the gift of righteousness with faith, because faith is not a gift. When people read these verses in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9, they misinterpret it because they don't understand the syntax of words here in the Greek. So let me explain it, which I've already made a video explaining this, but it bears repeating. For in grace, which is a gift, grace, gift, you are having been saved through faith. And this is not out of you, but the gift of God. Okay, being saved is a gift of God. But this not out of you is not referring to faith. The word faith is parsed in the feminine gender. In the pronoun, this is parsed in the neuter gender. So this pronoun cannot be modifying the word faith. They're different genders. This is the syntax law of Greek parsing. This, in the neuter gender, is modifying the word gift. And the works Paul is referring to, again, is the works of the law. Because out of the works of the law, every flesh will not be justified. Because Christ is the finishing of the law for righteousness, which righteousness is the gift. But faith here is not the gift. The gift is being saved through faith, which faith is the wrestle and the athleting. And it has a reward also. Our athleting in our wrestling has a reward. John 4:36, the harvesting one takes reward and leads to gather fruit into Aeonian life, where those who are harvesting and take the reward are leading together others who are sowing still. They're doing the land work. So taking the reward is taking Aeonian life according each to his own order. Again, watch my video 148 and my most recent video, What is Salvation?, where I actually touched on this in this video also. Thanks for watching. God bless.